Some people feel more comfortable jotting their questions down. That's fine. Send them to the aisles. There will be people there to bring them up. We're going to alternate with taking questions from the floor verbally. You need to wait long enough for the mic to find you so your question gets on the audio tape too. So let's start over here, and while the mic's coming, maybe I'll get a written one we can use.
Are you going to call?
Are you having fun?
Yeah, we're having fun.
That's what I promised.
Yeah.
I hope this will make it more fun. I doubt it. I'd like to know from each of you what it means for feminism in America, both the fact that there's so few people of color in this audience and so few men.
Well, I hate to say this, but actually there are a lot more men in the audience tonight than I generally see. I don't think that I think that the fact that there are, when you're in sort of some settings that there aren't, that it's a fairly white crowd should not mislead people into thinking that feminism is a white middle class movement. In fact, just the opposite. When at this point, as public opinion polls indicate, feminism is actually more strongly supported by women of color. It's more strongly supported by low-income women. They're more likely to say that they're feminists. And much of the most interesting and most important sort of grassroots work that's going on now is from women working in factories, in unions, in women who worked in the administrative and secretarial pools at colleges, who organized in the late 80s. So I don't think that it is fair to sort of to jump from sort of looking at the audience to the assumption that means that feminism is not relevant to women across the income ladder and across various ethnic groups. I think just the opposite.
This is a question for both of you. Do you agree with Marlon Fitzwater that the L.A. riots were caused by the failure of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society program? Maybe you want to comment.
This is just the whole backlash. The backlash thesis is, when in doubt, blame feminism. This is maybe George Bush has read my book, and he's trying to apply it to, the plight of people in the rotting out cities by telling us that, in fact, it's the one cause that was trying to improve life for the majority of the population that George Bush never sees, that they actually are the ones to blame.
This is one of those cases where the facts, in fact, speak for themselves. Lyndon Johnson's war on poverty cut the rate of poverty in this country in half. Millions of people moved out of poverty as a direct result of those programs. It is occasionally argued by conservatives that the dramatic drop in the poverty rate following the initiation of those programs was attributable in large part to the fact that those were boom economic years in this country. However, you will notice that during the boom economic years of the Reagan era, there was no similar phenomenon, and there was no drop in the rate in poverty in this country.
Let's take a question down here. And while that's coming to you, I'll ask Molly, which presidential candidate would give you the best material if elected?
Well, my man George is pretty good, There's a lot to be said for George's material. Have you all noticed that the verbal dyslexia is now it's not only getting worse, but it started to affect his gestures, so that he says things like, and the deficit is getting bigger and bigger. I want to bring people together.
Now your question.
Molly, are you going to get Ann Richards to run for president
someday?
someday?
Well, maybe we can. She decided, the question was, would Ann Richards ever run for president? It's not a bad idea. She decided early on that she was just going to concentrate on being governor of Texas the first term and literally not think about anything else. She has a lot on her plate with that job. However, her next term is coming up shortly.
We had a question here.
This is also a question for both of you. To what extent has the lack in education of critical thinking skills contributed to public acceptance of media and authority lies about women and African Americans?
You take it, kid.
Well, I don't know. I mean, half of it's lack of education, half of it's sort of willful not wanting to understand, particularly when it comes to women, I think. You know, some of our most so-called intelligent minds seem to suddenly go brain dead when trying to understand basic things like, well, what is rape anyway? I mean, you know, our esteemed senators, I don't know that it was their lack of education that makes them so idiotic when it comes to sort of basic women's rights. What do you think?
The question here for both of you is, if the Roe decision is overturned, should women riot?
And we should work on a way of getting men.
I think
getting men pregnant.
One of the. I think we're in the area of an actual restraint on the First Amendment here. But I certainly do find that an intriguing question.